Welcome to the Let's Talk Data podcast series presented by SAP, where we explore game-changing technology and strategies with leading experts with the goal of maximizing the value of data across your organization. If you haven't done so already, please follow or subscribe to our podcast on your favorite channel to stay tuned in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our SAP Let's Talk Data podcast 2023 Trends in Master Data Management. My name is Corrie Birkeness. I'm from SAP Product and Solution Marketing, and I'll be your host for today's podcast. And this is a very special episode indeed. It is our 100th podcast in the series that have been running for over 8 seasons. And it's also on a topic I'm very passionate about, master data management. And then I'd like to pause just for a moment before we begin and thank our partners at Webino for their excellence in production of these podcasts. Thank you. Okay, so with that, let me start by introducing our speakers. We have Andy Hayler. He's the practice lead at Bloor Research. He focuses on the topic of data as an asset. And then we also have Markus Kuppe. He's a VP and Chief Product Owner for SAP Master Data Governance. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Andy, let's start off with you. I know Bloor has recently published a Master Data Management Market Update. And for those listening, that link to that market update, or at least one focused on MDG, is published on sap.com, and that's going to be within the comments of the podcast. And then also include a link to the Bloor Research website as well you can kind of get into some of the research they've done. So Andy, can you share some of the key highlights from that Master Data Management Market Update?
Yeah, thank you, Corey. Yes, I'll just try to summarize briefly. I think there is sort of a continuing trend of merging the sort of general topic of MDM and master data hubs into a sort of broader data management platforms that often include sort of data governance, data quality, and sometimes even data integration as well. I think that's something that's been happening for some time, and I think it's continuing to grow. It's fairly obviously continuing move of applications in large enterprises from on-premise to the cloud, or at least to hybrid environments, which are a mix of private, public cloud, not on-premise. And as the data moves, then master data management needs to move with it. And so obviously master data platforms need to themselves be deployable in the cloud and be able to access sort of cloud-based data. So those are sort of just large sort of macro sort of trends, which are not particularly surprising, I think. I think the topic for the last year has really been the sort of rise of interest in AI, or particularly generative AI, and we'll perhaps talk a little bit more about that later. And potentially also the role of master data management in this newer sort of architecture called data fabric, and perhaps we can perhaps expand on that a little bit later.
Okay, super. And Markus, just kind of feeding off what Andy has covered, how do you see some of those trends aligning with what SAP sees in the MDM space? Anything to add or stress in particular?
First of all, I totally agree. And the topic of master data management is very important to SAP, because for most companies, master data has become more strategic than ever before. Because as Andy said, high quality master data is needed as an enabler for some of the most important business transformations that companies are striving for. And this includes initiatives like Andy said, the move of business applications to the cloud, or like the modularization even of the application landscapes, digital business transformations as such, like we see a lot of S/4HANA transformation that our customers. And this, of course, also includes AI. I mean, you cannot have trustful or even meaningful results for artificial intelligence without trusted and high quality master data. And our own MDM product, SAP Master Data Governance, is really designed to support all these trends that every company needs to get ready for the future. And I can only also say that we see that acceleration of the MDM market growth that's mentioned in that research, because we also see a significant rise in interest in MDM as such, and in our product, SAP MDG, by many companies, which I would say is no wonder given the importance of high quality master data these days.
Yeah, and I heard recently someone say that data is the most important thing for any initiative around digitization, but master data is the most important. And I couldn't agree with that anymore. Marcus, a couple more things. Something that Andy talked about was kind of the move towards a more platform approach with MDM. And I'm thinking of our SAP Business Technology Platform and how we're kind of connected there. And then also just maybe just a few comments on the Business Data Fabric.
Sure. I mean, MDG is part of our business technology platform offering and value proposition. And then if you see that our customers move more and more data into the BTP as that platform, which provides the data that enables all these initiatives, then every investment into better master data and master data quality really pays off into all the scenarios that leverage that data from the BTP, because then every improvement in data quality will be effective at so many different scenarios that you put on top of the BTP.
Yeah, and it's very true, Marcus. And this includes leveraging SAP DataSphere for your data fabric initiatives, but also, on the flip side is being able to leverage that same solution for things like data lineage or your data catalog, metadata management. So yes, the whole platform approach, this is something that SAP is focused on. So, okay, let's shift gears a little bit on one of the topics that has been mentioned a few times, and it is kind of around the idea of automation and intelligence, including the application of artificial intelligence. So, Andy, what are you seeing as some of the opportunities here?
Sure. Well, certainly artificial intelligence isn't something that's entirely new in the area of MDM. If we look at back, even a few years, then machine learning has been used for quite some time, for example, in merge matching. So, for example, trying to identify duplicate customer or product records. Some things are obviously matched and some things are obviously not, but some things are grey areas and there's usually some sort of human intervention. And sort of machine learning can be used to sort of track that sort of human intervention and to identify patterns in that, and then to make the automated classification of duplicates much more accurate. So machine learning's been around for quite a while. I think the new sort of kid on the block, as it were, is sort of generative AI, which really has been really leapt to everyone's attention in November last year when the ChatGPT was released to the sort of general public. And I think there's several opportunities here. Firstly, in terms of generating material. So an example might be in generating descriptions in business glossaries, for example, basically from raw data, or even generating sort of images from text. But also it could be used to help. I've seen one example of using AI to help users navigate the product documentation, because it's actually very good at sort of spotting, summarizing things and spotting patterns. Another example would be providing a natural language interface to searching for master data, because again, one of the things that you can do with the generative AI, it doesn't just generate text, but it can actually generate SQL or program code as well. So having an interface on top of a master data management hub, which enables people to actually sort of search more intuitively for their master data and to sort of navigate that landscape, I think is one example. And then the final thing is, which Marcus alluded to earlier, was that the whole topic of master data, I think, is going to be sort of lifted by AI, because one of the things which people are beginning to realize is that the quality of the returns you get from questions to an AI is highly dependent on the quality of the data it's being trained upon. So if you are training your own large language model on your corporate data, perhaps, or some subset of your corporate data, it's clearly going to be quite important that the data you're training it on is trustworthy and of good quality. And so if you try to implement a sort of new initiative on top of data that's not particularly reliable, then you're going to get fairly unreliable results as well. So I think the whole MDM sort of subject is going to become sort of get a higher profile because of the need for high quality, reliable data as a basis for high quality AI initiatives.
Excellent point, Sandy. And Marcus, how has SAP Master Data Governance applying intelligence as well as other techniques to further efficiency and quality?
Let me maybe frame that into the broader topic of automation in master data management, because I think automation can bring both. It can bring the efficiency and the quality that is needed for the modern times. And that is because automation can mean less manual work, which we left for the humans involved in MDM, and then obviously driving efficiency. But also when less manual work is involved, there's less opportunities for humans to make any errors, and for example, typing errors when entering master data. Yeah. So automation is really a key broader focus for us in MDG. And this automation, we drive that through two approaches. And one approach is technology, and artificial intelligence as part of that technology. But the other approach, and which is also important, is trusted data. Yeah. So before you apply technology, it's if you can get hold of trusted data, you should use that data and allow it to automatically infuse it into your master data repository without obviously manually typing it. And we have in MDG enabled such a first-time right approach with what we call data provider integration. For example, you can use the data from our partner Corporate Data Quality in Switzerland, and CDQ actually gets that data from like 70 plus data sources around the world, and then provides us this clean business partner master data that then our customers can use in MDG to create or enrich business partners for their organizations. Yeah. So if there's trusted data, use the trusted data. If not, use technology. Yeah. So that's our second pillar. I mean, we have been using rules-based auto population of master data, and we're also using machine learning today in MDG to identify like implicit data quality rules that sit in our customers' existing master data records, and we mine for such data rules, and then using intelligence so to make these rules then explicit, and then these rules can also be enforced for future data entry. Yeah, so we improve the quality of master data through technology, machine learning in this case, without the need for users to try to find these quality issues and then manually correct them. And by that technology, we even help avoiding new quality issues. Yeah? So that is what we are doing today. But now we are also looking, of course, into generative AI as a future technology. And this can also be used to improve quality and efficiency in MDM. And we are currently looking into use cases like creation or change of master data through a like chatbot-like experience. I mean, you might have heard of SAP Joule in this context. But there's also many more scenarios like automatic enrichment or improving even further matching of duplicates, or even ideas how to speed up MDM implementations with the help of Gen AI.
Excellent. Thank you, Markus. And I know one other area that SAP has been investing in on the MDM topic is the Federation of Master Data Governance. And Andy, I know this is something you are passionate about as well. So for those listening, a federation distributes the management of the data to, as I've heard Markus say before, where it is best understood. And I love that phrase. Meaning that the core attributes are managed centrally, but other attributes that may be more application specific or specific to a region or a business unit, these are decentrally managed. So Andy, could you comment on how you are seeing companies taking advantage or benefiting from this sort of federated model?
Sure. I think it's important to understand that the sort of federated approach is particularly well suited to certain types of company. I mean, I used to work for two different very large oil companies, Exxon and Shell. One was highly centralized, Exxon, and one was highly decentralized, Shell. And so if you're thinking about how to implement a sort of master data management approach there, in having one sort of giant hub to rule the world it might work in a centralized company, but would be very difficult in a decentralized company. So it often makes a lot more sense to consider grouping multiple master data management hubs, maybe potentially by region or even by country or business line, and you imagine that certain types of data again may neatly kind of sort of bisect into some things that are more naturally managed centrally. So something like a product hierarchy, you might have a sort of core of products which are global brands within your organization, and you want to manage those from a sort of central place. But there'll also be a whole bunch of local products which are relevant to a particular market in a certain country or certain region. And for those, it makes really little sense to try to manage these all from the sort of head office with all the kind of overheads and that involves. And often people in central office don't understand the needs of a particular local market. So that type of data, local product data, it probably make a lot more sense to try to manage that locally and in a local master data management hub. Now, obviously, this is kind of more complicated in a way because you're going to have more than one hub, but in which case one of the critical things that you need to do is make sure that the things stay in line between these multiple hubs. But that's a sort of technology issue which vendors just need to sort out. However, for many companies, having this approach of sort of multiple, sort of federated approach to master data management is actually a lot more natural in terms of their sort of structure, a political environment, organizational environment, and makes a lot more sense than trying to stuff everything into one giant MDM hub in central office.
Hey, Markus, anything to add on the topic of federation of master data governance?
Yeah, I totally agree with Andy. Federation is not for every company. Yeah? So if you look into companies using MDG today, most of them use exactly one MDG system and they use it for the complete enterprise. And many of these companies think that this will also be the right setup for them for the future. But some companies, as Andy mentioned, have a different approach and they see that an enterprise-wide MDM program might be restricted if they set boundaries by one single MDM system and enforcing some boundaries to the organization by that one single MDM system. Because there might be these differences between the various parts of the organizations and in different business units in different geographical regions. And these differences sometimes make it hard to come to one single global definition of master data. And with MDG, we allow that then to federate multiple instances of MDG, which can then be deployed in the context of these business units or these geographies. And then through a federated network of MDG systems and then orchestration, very important, orchestration of the MDM process across these systems, we enable both, the local benefits to manage the master data exactly at the place where it's best understood. But you also get the global benefits, like a joint understanding of the same supplier across all units of the enterprise. Yes, this can be a little bit more difficult to manage, but I think we have a very unique approach to automate that distributed maintenance of master data, which we think is very easy to manage in our case through a global definition of ownership for master data. And then this federation can also be introduced at a later point in time. So even if a company had started with one single MDG system and only later found out that they need more flexibility, then they can introduce that federation later in time. So we actually think with MDG, you can get ready for that modular application landscape of the future, and you can still apply a enterprise-wide approach to master data management, even in such complex situations where some companies maybe wouldn't have expected this would even be possible.
Very good, very good. And just for the listeners, I just like to note that this is kind of taking with SAP Master Data Governance is taking the concept of master data management and putting a flavor of application data management within it. So kind of a two-tiered approach there. Okay, so one last topic, we've touched on it earlier, is the topics of, it's the buzzwords, it's data fabric, data mesh, data as a product are all popular right now in the data world. So Andy, how do you see the role of MDM complementing these concepts?
Sure, Corrie. Well, if we just make sure we're talking about the same thing. So data fabric is really sort of an architectural approach to connecting the data across an enterprise, but without necessarily moving it about. So if we think about, something like a data warehouse, you're physically copying data from applications into a central warehouse and resolving inconsistencies and so on there. The data fabric approach is a bit more like a sort of data virtualization, I guess, if you want to go back a few years, where you're building a sort of a layer, a sort of semantic layer above the map of the landscape of data in the enterprise, and resolving issues, in a more sort of dynamic way. The reason that where MDM fits in this is that this is not a trivial thing to do. So building this sort of data fabric is a very ambitious thing, from covering the whole enterprise. MDM is sort of a somewhat narrower field than that because it covers only master data, but it's highly complementary to it because trying to actually make sense of something like customer data, product data, location data, if it's scattered randomly across hundreds of applications, that's a very difficult problem to deal with. Whereas if you've got a master data management project already sort of implemented with a master data management hub or hubs which have already got sort of high quality trusted master data, that's going to make life a great deal easier for the data fabric virtualization layer. So the two things I think are highly complementary, and MDM can be a sort of foundation, if you like, for a data fabric architecture. Data mesh, just to sort of round it out, is a slightly different sort of architectural approach where you're taking a more data domain specific approach, where you're saying, okay, let's focus on, say, product data or customer data or asset data. If you're going to do that, then it's highly complementary to master data management, which after all is really all has always been about, the management of that type of key data, so around sort of products, customers, assets, locations, and so on. So again, if you've got strong MDM in place, it's going to make life a lot easier for you if you're trying to do this data mesh approach.
So we've talked about intelligence, we've talked about modularization, we've talked about modernization, data fabrics. Andy or Markus, any final comments?
If you have any interest, I recently wrote an ebook on generative AI specifically, and this can be accessed through the Bloor website. It's free. You just have to sort of register basically, and that in particular gives a large number of case studies of AI in practice, and also talks about some of the limitations of AI and some of the things that it may not be quite so well suited for. So if that's of any interest, then that's something you can access for free on the Bloor Research website.
And with that, I want to thank you both, Andy and Markus, for sharing your thoughts on today's MDM market trends. And I want to thank everyone for listening to our SAP Let's Talk Data podcast, discussing those trends. And I encourage everyone listening to take a look at the additional resources that we've kind of mentioned throughout. Those, again, are available in the description. And then also, please share your comments on what you're seeing relative to your organization on the topic of master data management. We'd love to have you engage. Again, thanks, everyone, and be well.
We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Check out the show notes for additional links to information. And please subscribe or follow to join us on the next episode of Let's Talk Data presented by SAP.